after careful consideration, after consulting with the health experts, it is clear that we cannot open schools at this time.
Schools will remain shut until September. Premier Ford says it's not worth the risk.
A couple of nights that I was out here, it was bloody cold. It was -2, -3.
This man here has been forced out of his apartment, temporarily living out of a small camper, desperate for a more secure place to call home. Got a gorgeous look outside right now, the sun poking through the clouds, but we do know that some streets in Windsor, Essex are dealing with flooding. LaSalle has standing water near the front of the river. Hillman Marsh also dealing with flooding, and there are flood warnings for parts of the county and Pelee Island. We'll have more when Colette Kennedy joins us with the weather. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for watching. A big change is coming to Windsor's bus service. Their executive director is retiring and leaving a multi-million-dollar project billed as the transformation of Transit Windsor for someone else to take over. This, of course, comes after the bus service was suspended for nearly a month, just a few weeks into the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Jacob Barker has been looking into this. He joins me now live. Jacob.
Yeah, Chris, well, Pat Delmore worked for the city for 33 years, and they are looking to fill his position quickly, and that's because he was overseeing a major overhaul to transit, a new master plan that's going to be taking place over the next 8 years.
We have basically taken our entire route system and looked at a whole new routing network.
What should I do?
That gets people to where they need to go in a much faster amount of time.
So that was Delmore speaking about the plan last year, and whoever takes over will be in charge of this multi-million-dollar operation. It's supposed to transform transit in Windsor. The city says it's important to replace Delmore quickly so that he has enough time to pass his knowledge on to the next successful candidate.
Part of the idea of getting somebody in early is to make sure there actually is a smooth transition and that we don't lose any steam on the master plan and the service delivery review.
So, Jacob, why exactly is Delmore stepping away now?
Well, Chris, we don't know that, but I did speak with somebody at City Hall today who said that he is eligible for retirement in a couple of years from now, and that he is, this is just the right time for him to be doing this. Now, I did speak with others who said that, he is an expert in his field, and losing that knowledge about transit is a big loss for the city.
So the knowledge of the transit world, we're missing, and we're going to lose someone special here. So it's going to be big shoes to fill for sure.
Now, Delmore is going to stay in that role as executive director for now, but that job posting did go up today, and they're looking to have somebody in place by the middle of July and to start by Labor Day. Chris?
Thanks, Jacob. The CBC's Jacob Barker live tonight. Big announcement on schools today. They're going to stay closed for the rest of the school year. E-learning, that's going to continue. This according to the province as it unveiled plans for the summer and September. We're also getting some sense tonight of changes that are in store for when students do return to class. Lisa Shing has the details.
Since mid-March, Joanne DiNardo and her husband have been looking after their 3 kids aged 10, 13, and 15 while working from home. Like many parents, she's happy the government is closing schools until September.
To go back for what remains now, which is just a month and a little bit, doesn't really make sense.
I totally agree with it. I think for the safety of our children, it was definitely the right move.
Other parents, like this healthcare worker whose wife looks after 2 kids, was hoping for some different news.
With the curve reasonably flattened, I don't think it would have been bad to open it. I probably would have preferred it, but I don't think this is unreasonable.
We cannot open schools at this time. I'm just not going to risk it.
Today, the province announced schools will stay closed with online learning continuing through June and some summer programs launching in July.
It obviously is the only decision forward in the context of maintaining the safety of our families, of our communities, and of mitigating community spread of this disease.
The summer learning program includes an expansion of traditional summer school courses, virtual volunteering, and supports for those with special needs and mental health needs. For parents wondering about childcare through the summer, day camps could start in July and August, depending on how the pandemic progresses. But the province has canceled its overnight camps. Daycares will start up again in the next stage of reopening. As for the future of the school year come September, Education Minister Stephen Lecce says the province will be discussing details as to how exactly that will unfold, including physical distancing, how many students will be in each class, and whether or not activities like gym class will be allowed to go on. We expect to get more details on that by the end of June. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
There are 6 big circus-like tents sitting outside of Windsor's largest employer. Close to 2,000 people were back at work at FCA's Windsor assembly plant, and they were met by increased screening. Here's a look at what each employee will have to do before every shift and what's changed inside the plant.
This is the new normal, the start of every shift. They will go through this, employees will go through this process. We have approximately 2,000 employees coming on site today.
Good morning, folks. How are you?
Good morning.
Good, how are you?
They enter through this tent. They've completed a health screening questionnaire, either in a paper format or on an app.
Thank you.
They are given PPE, which is a face mask. And then they enter through the trailer into a thermal scan and go through thermal scanning. After that, they're given safety glasses and they are prepared to proceed into the facility. Once they get to the actual turnstile, we do have people there checking that the people have the ticket, and then they're allowed to swipe in and enter the plant. People will see as they enter physical distancing and spacing, as well as in common areas, canteens. We've put up physical barriers when people are sitting at lunch tables and things of that nature. As far as I know, everyone was fine. I've been here most of the morning, greeting people, welcoming them back. A lot of people seemed happy to get back to work. Obviously, it's something new for everyone, new process. So people do have a few questions as far as where to go, and as the days go on, it'll sort of just become the way that we do things now.
If an employee shows up with symptoms or they have symptoms on the line, they're going to be called off of the line. FCA will work with the health unit to see what that employee is going through exactly. Now, as of today, that wouldn't be enough to shut down the plant or the shift. Other employees would stay on site. A spokesperson said that they'll work with the health unit to verify close contacts and go forward with advice from the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit. The union was in the plant today and said that they're still working on some things as the plant restarts.
Like anything else, there is some growing pains, but I can tell you that a lot of safety measures have taken place. I mean, I know that they, opened up windows as the line started in assembly today to get some air moving, and we are pushing very hard on the fan issue. So that is another, thing that we're working on right now.
The fan issue in the windows, that's to keep things cool, let air flow inside the plant. Cassidy says that the shifts have also been changed just to make sure employees aren't passing each other on their way out of tight spaces. All those changes to prevent the possible spread of the coronavirus. 11 more cases of COVID-19 were reported in Windsor-Essex this morning. There are no new deaths, continuing an encouraging trend. Over the past 7 days, only 2 deaths have been reported by the health unit. Just today, the health unit announced that anyone in our area with even a single symptom of COVID-19 is being encouraged to get tested.
We want to set up a low threshold so and more people can be tested. When we are testing more and more people even with mild symptoms, we will have a better understanding of how this disease is progressing in the community. And if we really want to do a good job in case and contact management, this is what we need to do. And we need to identify those people and put them in isolation and identify their contacts so that they do not continue to expose other people.
Ahmed says they can do more testing because there's now a steady supply of swabs and better capacity in labs. He says with restrictions starting to lift, there's a greater risk of people coming into contact with each other. And all of this as thousands of businesses were allowed to reopen throughout the province today, from pet grooming to flower shops and clothing stores.
We were already set up with a website, online presence, able to take credit cards over the phone, had a delivery service already in place. So our transition was a little easier than I'm sure a lot of people's is. So up until today, the door has been locked and we were just doing curbside pickup and no contact deliveries.
I am taking every safety precaution. I have my store with the 6-foot distancing markers, and I'm going to ask all my clients to wear gloves when they come in. If they have their own mask, that'd be great.
Now, the goal here is to make sure that customers inside stores continue to follow physical distancing protocols. Businesses that aren't prepared to open or don't feel comfortable are being urged to stay closed by the province. A 70-year-old man in Essex is living out of a small camper at a parking lot. A sudden move after leaving an apartment caked in black mold and walls that were cracked. The CBC's Sanjay Maru joining us now live. Sanjay, how did he exactly end up in this situation?
Well, Chris, this all started back in February. That's when we first told you about John Coble. That's when the town ordered him out of his apartment. Now, officials at the time performed an inspection deeming the apartment hazardous to health and safety. At the time, he was still allowed to come and go during the day, and at night, he would sleep in his electric mobility scooter parked just outside. However, that all changed just weeks ago.
It's not really that comfortable. I mean, but at the same time, you got to take the good with the bad.
Parked near his former apartment of 12 years, this small camper is where John Coble now calls home. The only thing keeping him from living on the street.
May 5th, the building inspector and then the chief inspector both come to me and said, we're out today, no exceptions, gone.
The town had given Coble former landlord 30 days to retain an Ontario professional engineer to assess the apartment. Town officials say an engineer was recruited, but their review was delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The locks were changed, and Coble was out for good.
This is where I sleep at night.
Living here is definitely a challenge. Impossible to keep outside noise from disturbing his sleep, with little room to store food except for a few frozen food items and some drinks. As for garbage, there's only room for a small bag in the sink. But Coble is still grateful. After all, the camper isn't even his property.
He came to me one night and just said, well, they kicked me out, I can't stay. He says, do you mind if I just stay in your parking lot? I'm gonna sleep in my car and then I can keep an eye on my stuff. And I was just like, he says, you don't have a car, you have a covered motorized scooter. I says, it's not even a car. And I felt bad for John, and I had the means to help him out.
Shingle knows his camper isn't the most comfortable place to live, but says it beats living on the street. However, Coblenak's time inside the camper may not last much longer, as Shingle plans to resurface the parking lot as early as next month.
Eventually, they're going to dig that whole parking lot up and resurface it, and I'm sure that's going to be a couple of weeks where, yeah, we aren't even going to be able to park our own cars in here, let alone John's camper.
This means Coble will need to find another place to park the camper before that happens. If not, he's at a loss of where he'll go next.
Sanjay, what other options does he have, and what are other officials? What are they saying about what he can do next?
Well, officials with the town of Essex say they are empathetic to the 70-year-old's situation, but added they believe the building owner for Coblenak's former apartment is, quote, acting in good faith to mitigate the problems at the property. Now, in terms of what options Coblenak has to avoid living on the street, if indeed that camper is no longer available come next month, they are few and far between. Officials for the area who help people looking for housing say the wait list for affordable housing remains months, even years long. And for those who need a place to live now, they would have to seek emergency shelter. I also reached out directly to the building owner of Coblenak's old apartment, but I did not hear back. Chris.
Thanks for this, Sanjay. The owner of a legendary summer hotspot in Windsor, Essex, has died. Tributes are pouring in for Mark Royaume, who owned Dairy Freeze in Essex County. This here is a photo of Mark and his wife in front of that iconic sign. Chances are that if you've spent a hot summer day in the area, you've popped by Dairy Freeze or have been sent in that direction. He died on Friday. Dairy Freeze is closed indefinitely while the family mourns Mark's sudden death. This photo here was posted to the Dairy Freeze Facebook page today. With the pandemic restricting large gatherings, Mark being a big sports guy, they're asking people to leave a stick or a racket on the porch, your driveway, wherever, to mark his memory. The Ford government says an independent commission will examine Ontario's long-term care system and the impact of COVID-19. This falls short of the judicial inquiry that the opposition and healthcare unions want to see. Our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley looks at the difference and why it could matter.
More than 1,600 people have died of COVID-19 in Ontario's long-term care homes. Now, after asking the military for help and after promising an iron ring around Ontario's seniors, the Ford government announces an independent commission into long-term care will start its work in September.
It's going to be fully transparent, like we've been transparent right from day one of this crisis.
We have been moving decisively and swiftly because Ontarians deserve it.
The COVID-19 pandemic in this province has been largely defined by its impact on long-term care. People living in nursing homes account for 70% of all deaths. 5 staff have died too. These homes have all witnessed at least 40 deaths or more among residents. The government offered no details today on the mandate of its commission, who will lead it, or a deadline for finishing its work. The New Democrats want a full-fledged public inquiry instead.
No one has asked for yet another Ford government-controlled commission. We owe it to the thousands of staff and residents who lost their lives to get to the bottom of this.
The Premier says a public inquiry would take too long.
It's very simple. We need to fix it now. Ontario deserves more. The people, the families deserve more and a quicker result.
What's the big difference between a public inquiry and an independent commission? A public inquiry is always led by a judge with the power to compel anyone to testify. A commission can move more quickly, but it has less power and its members are appointed by the government. The last time Premier Ford launched an independent commission, it concluded the Liberals left a deficit of $15 billion, a finding that both the Auditor General and the Financial Accountability Officer later rejected as an exaggeration. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
I just want to correct a previous story, dairy freeze there. That was Mike, not Mark Rayom. Apologize for the error. Ottawa and Washington have agreed to keep the Canada-US border closed until at least June 21st.
We're adjusting constantly to what is the right measures for Canadians to get that balance right between keeping people safe and restoring a semblance of normality and the economic activity that we all rely on.
The border was slated to reopen to tourists, day trippers, other recreational travelers in just a couple of days. This is the second time that the date has been pushed back. Trudeau says extending the closure by 30 days once again is the right thing to do. The terms of the agreement, they remain the same. That means that those who try to enter the country at irregular entry points will be returned to the United States. Well, if your child is upset that the Tooth Fairy won't be able to come over because of the pandemic, good news for you. Patricia Fell is acting as an agent of the Tooth Fairy. If a child lost a tooth, parents can give her a call. Kids are asked to leave their tooth in a bowl in their yard instead of underneath the pillow. And Fell will swing by the home, pick up the tooth, leave a little gift. She got the idea after Premier Ford announced that the Easter Bunny and Tooth Fairy were considered essential, and she received a special arts grant from the city to create the Essential Tooth Fairy program. Stay tuned. When we come back, Colette Kennedy has our full forecast. Joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. Colette, I have a feeling that the week's going to look nice, but the weekend we've had, and right now dealing with some flood warnings as well, that wet weather and that wind just doesn't seem to want to go away.
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head there, Chris. Those are the two problems. It's not just adding rain in there with our flooding concerns. We know that, and bringing the water levels up. It's almost always the winds, and we are looking at that direction. Although the winds will be easing up a bit overnight tonight, that direction coming in off the lake, which also really poses a problem in there. But the pattern is changing, and it's really going in a pretty nice direction and a drier direction as well. So we'll get some partial clearing overnight tonight. There'll still be some clouds tomorrow morning, and then we'll get further clearing. But more like it, some sunshine, not just a kind of one-day only event, but I mean sunshine. It's going to stick around for a few days as high pressure is going to be over top of us and really protecting us with that. And then not only will the temperatures be on the rise as we go towards the weekend, but it's going to be more of what, you know, we're used to the Windsor area getting a bit humid as we go towards the weekend as well. Current temperatures, would you believe it's now 20 degrees? I know earlier that was kind of difficult, a bit of a struggle through the afternoon hours with still some showers lingering, the temperature right there in the mid-teens, and then with the sun and the clearing popped up. But you can see those easterly winds, not so much a problem through Windsor, but Chatham, Kent, those winds sustained around almost 40 kilometers an hour and coming in off the lake, and same thing with what we've been seeing into Leamington as well. But the actual precipitation falling from the sky, that has been clearing away. It's been kind of slow to do that, I know, but we'll continue to see that. And not only that, those clouds eroding. It is going to take some time, but they'll be going. And once they do, you're going to get bored with the pattern. Sunshine during the day, at night we get in clear skies, sunshine comes back. Now this will slide a little bit further to the east, so on Thursday we might pick up a little bit of cloud cover mixing with our beautiful sunshine, but that's about it. Whoops, I want to pass those rainfall accumulations because we don't need to deal with those. Lows of 10 to 11 degrees tomorrow. It is looking good once we get into more of that sun into the afternoon, at least seeing some upper teens. This time of year seasonal will be closer to 21. We'll get closer to that on Thursday. Again, could pick up a little extra cloud cover there. Sunshine Friday, 22, but mid to upper 20s, feeling like we're in the 30s, Chris. Coming up this next weekend.
That's pretty incredible, considering where we've been. We've had flurries, we've had flakes, we have all of this that we've had to deal with recently. We also had to deal with, well, some of us had to deal with your let's say, improvised grooming abilities for puppies.
All of us. Yes, well, for ourselves and for our puppies, but today a big day. This is my sweet little rescue dog, Tia. She got to go in. She was the first dog to go in to the groomer early this morning because it's one dog at a time. So she was in. I picked her up 2 hours later, and her groomer, Amy, always puts those little pigtails into her fur with the little flowers, which kills me when I pick her up. She just too cute. But finally her paws don't look like the Grinch anymore. She doesn't want me trimming her fur any longer.
Oh, well, she looks beautiful and healthy, and those are the main points. Thanks, Colette.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be next.
Absolutely. I might have to steal some of those twists and put them in my ear myself.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Thanks, Colette. Have a good day.
You too.
Now, coming up, we're going to take you out to the marina. Some repairs are currently behind schedules, and that means that boaters, well, they got to wait a bit. As the province starts to slowly open back up again, marinas are among the facilities that are able to reopen, but Windsor's Lakeview Marina currently behind schedule, which means boaters who use it, they're gonna have to wait. That's been angering some who have relied on the dock for years.
I, along with a lot of other boaters from Lakeview Park Marina, are very frustrated looking at the lack of construction, the lack of workforce here at the marina. It's come to a grinding halt where there are only 2 people working on a job site of this size. To us, it's just very frustrating.
Now, the city says that the marina will remain closed until later in the summer. The mayor says that the project to install floating docks was supposed to be done by now, but the work was interrupted because of COVID-19. It's 6:29 p.m. and that's it for CBC Windsor News. We want to leave you with a final look at Windsor's very own Tooth Fairy, spreading joy, leaving presents for kids around town. And don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media as well. If you type CBC Windsor in Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, you'll see our accounts pop up. Power in Politics is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.